had the amazing opportunity to attend, not one but two HBCUs, Elizabeth City State and North Carolina Central University. Go Eagles! And when I got to Durham, I just fell in love, and I had an opportunity to a few years after that meet my now wife Tracy, who is a Carolina and North Carolina Central grad, and then then from there we it started to expand our family. Eventually, got married and expanded our family, and so altogether we have three boys. One is 19, that's Zachary, and we have James Preston, who is 6, and Adam, who is 4, and a golden retriever named Sophie. And so by day, I work at UNC Chapel Hill in philanthropy, as you said, and in public life, I get a chance to serve the people of North Carolina, all 10 million of them, by way of Durham District 31 in North Carolina House. And so I'm just glad to be doing what I'm doing. It's stuff that I've been working on my entire life, issues that I care about. And so I really feel like I'm in a sweet spot in life where I get a chance to wake up and do exactly what my passion is.
Wow, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. So, um, you say you got 3 kids. So, how are your kids adjusting to school learning during COVID? I know my kids. It's been a little learning curve here.
Yeah, it really, really has been. And I get a chance to hear it, not only live it, but, hear it from, constituents as well and coworkers. For us, when it sort of kicked off, we had our oldest was a senior in DP at Durham Public Schools.
Right.
And so, all of a sudden, his senior year gets cut just like that.
Hmm.
Now, I will say he thought it was the coolest thing in the world in the beginning, right? Like, I ain't gonna go to school. What? But as the time gets on, you realize, right, that you miss seeing the people and doing the things and actually going in the building. And then our now first grader who's 6 is having to go through this whole thing virtually. And so in many ways it's been a blessing because our youngest two have different forms of autism, and it is really, really good to be able to have to spend that much time looking at and seeing what he's doing. But it also is a lot on parents, having to actually do the teaching and making sure that they're learning, not just clicking on buttons, right?
Yeah.
Um, they're reading the assignments, whatever sort of follow up and homework they have to do, the interruptions, because kids don't care. They don't care if you're on a busy call. They don't care if you're doing whatever. They want to go outside and play. They want to do those kinds of things. And then our youngest is in he's in preschool, so they were still in person, the half day program. And just same thing, right? Like once he gets out, I'm daddy drop off. I'm the daddy taxi, so I drop off and I pick up. So I'm rolling up, rolling up in carpool line, trying to navigate all these moms. But it's just interesting, man, because kids are incredibly resilient.
Right.
But we found that we had to. It just challenged us to put more structures in our house. Certain time to do this, a certain time to do that. Sort of, creating those boundaries for them, but then also just being flexible and realizing they're kids. So you know what, if they want to go for a walk, I ain't got nothing else to do. Go for a walk. And that kind of stuff. I think we get better and better, every day. But it has definitely been something to manage, brother. Definitely been something to manage.
Hey, I understand. I understand. Hey, so before we get into any more questions, I want to again thank all my viewers for coming out tonight, and I want to let everyone know. This is why I said everyone get here and stay to the end
Uh-oh.
because tonight we got a few gifts to give away. We'll be giving gifts away throughout the show. I'll have to find a good stopping point and start giving gifts away. We got 2 things to give away here. We have some masks, some Black Fathers Matter masks.
Mm.
They're nice silk masks. I know everyone needs a mask. Speaking of COVID, So it's a nice match you can always use. Um, and we have a couple gift cards to give away. So what I'll do when I get to a stopping point, I'll let Representative Hawkins decide which one we want to do each time.
There we go.
Then what I'm gonna do is for those that, and that's another reason why it was so important for you to for people to sign up through the Eventbrite. So Eventbrite sent me a report of everyone that signed up, and it listed it. It just put you in there as you signed up on whatever day. It just added you to a list, a running list, and it sent me the running list. So everyone has a number beside your name. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna have Alexa pick the number based on how many people are actually in here and or actually on the list. And if they're in here, then they get the prize. If they're not in here, Alexa pick another number until we get a winner. So sorry for that little intermission, little interruption. Now we get back to
you got to give contestants the rules of the game.
Yeah, gotta let them know the rules of the game. Gotta know the rules of the game. So just a couple more questions regarding COVID. So what impact has it played on the day-to-day operations in the state house, North Carolina State House?
Yeah, no. That's a really, really good question. And so just for people, for a little bit of background, so the North Carolina General Assembly is made up of the North Carolina House and the North Carolina Senate. And the House has 120 members, of which I'm one, and then the Senate has 50. And so these people bring all types of perspectives from around the state. And that's important because of what you just said. You talked about wearing masks and doing those things. Not everyone does that. Though, many, I think like the federal government now is asking for people to wear masks on federal property. The governor, of course, is pushing to wear it on state property. That does not extend to the North Carolina General Assembly. And so only the people, the speaker and the people who run the building can make that mandate. So right now it's not mandatory. And so the reason I bring that up is because when all this breaks out, we eventually last year had to go back and do COVID relief, right? Because there was a lot of money that businesses and individuals needed that was coming from the federal government, and that's our job to appropriate it. And so I think it was about 1.6 billion last go round, and of course whatever comes out of the federal government this go round will do the same. And I not to be partisan, but folks that are on my side of the aisle, everyone was masked up. Everybody had their mask and was willing to do that because we believed in not only our own safety but the safety of our neighbors. And so it was interesting to see as time went on, more and more people have done it. And I was just in the General Assembly today, and a lot more of my colleagues have, but there's so many that have actually been exposed but are refusing. And so we have to deal with that. But one of the things that is that's changed the operations is, whereas most people could walk into the building anytime, if you're a citizen just to hear the work of the people, you could do that. Right now, you absolutely could not, because they have essentially shut the building down to most traffic outside of people who are, part of advocacy groups or members, et cetera. Even when we got sworn in, there was minimal family that was allowed because of the safety precautions. And so once COVID really hit, the operations changed for that reason, because it wasn't discrimination. It wasn't discriminatory, right? It didn't care where you live. It just wanted to, the COVID virus was everywhere, and everyone was being impacted. So we did see a little bit of a change. The other thing that is a change that I think is noteworthy is that we had the opportunity to do a lot more virtual. Generally, we never had the opportunity to do virtual. So now, because of COVID, we not only can, if I have a committee meeting, instead of going in, we stream it into a member only setting, and we can actually have discussion and debate about appropriations, about bills that we're looking at. And that's been an amazing change, because many of the members in the assembly are actually within that 65 plus age range, and so they are more susceptible to doing that. And so that's one thing that has changed, is the ability to actually take part and do the people's business virtually, which honestly we were able to make work. And then for some people, for the actual votes that we take, have the ability to do that too. So that's been a welcome change, and I think that as we move forward, and of course as the vaccine gets distributed, we'll get a chance to get back to normal, so to speak, as we go later into the fall. But for right now, we are definitely in a hybrid situation.
Gotcha, gotcha. And you know what? It's funny. It's funny you should say something about um, people not wearing masks, even in the General Assembly. Now, because that was, that kind of takes me into my next question. Um, so I know the government, Governor Cooper has been, in my opinion, he's been great. He's been phenomenal with trying to tackle this COVID pandemic from the state perspective.
Mhm.
He's made some tough calls.
Oh
You
yeah.
know what I'm
Oh,
saying? And
I don't envy that man at all.
yeah, hey, but you know what? I gotta respect that man. I tell it, hey, listen, I make the joke all the time that, hey, when things clear up and the world open back up, Governor Cooper definitely is invited to the next cookout. He can eat straight off the grill if he wants in my house.
A fresh piece.
Fresh piece of go chicken off the grill. Because he's done so much to try to help us, man. But it's like, regardless of what he does, there's so many people that still try to flex their constitutional rights
Oh, sure,
to
sure.
not wear a mask. And I'm
Sure.
like, dude, do y'all not get it? That's not.
It's wild. And what's funny is that some of them, of course, they give us gifts where they come in and put a pocket constitution on our desk in the General Assembly. And what you find, and it's just to be completely direct here, is that a lot of folks don't know the Constitution as much as they think they do.
Some
Seriously.
of them don't even remember the preamble.
Yeah, come on. And so I think that, it sounds good to say for their own purposes.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, a lot of folks that thump that book or open it don't live by it in the way that they
Exactly.
should. And in those constitutional rights, I think they, similar to the First Amendment, right? You can speak your mind, but that's not doesn't mean you're free of consequence, right?
Exactly.
That means you have the ability to do things freely, but that means if you're a business that makes a certain decision, people don't have to frequent you, right? If I know a business is racist, I don't have to go, right?
Exactly.
And so I think that it just boils down to what I think has been probably the most disappointing thing, to your point, is that people made wearing a mask political, right? They made wearing a mask a statement of I'm in this case I'm a conservative, or I believe in freedom, right? There's another key term. I believe in the Constitution. You can't tell me what to do, and not sort of understand that I am my brother's keeper, I am my sister's keeper, right? And that's
Exactly.
as
Exactly.
Americans we should be sort of worried about a lot of that. And the governor, to your point, I think people again don't realize that he really did under a lot of pressure, under potentially losing his own reelection campaign, stuck to the guns of following the science and making sure that we did the right things. Because even if you look at college campuses, right, that where have 18 to 24-year-olds, when they get together, it spreads. Does that make sense? When people
Yep.
have, like if you look in some of these other states that have been a little bit more free, they've had to open up, then shut down. And so North Carolina has really been on a clean path, but we're starting to stabilize just in time for the vaccine to come. And so if we stick it out just a little bit further, I think we'll be fine. Even though I know people are a little skittish about his calls for us to go back to school. Um, I think we all, and I think we will do it within the realm of safety and making sure that people get what they need, right? All the safety procedures and protocols and resources. And
Mhm.
so, but yeah, it's just it has been wild to see people fight back against him. His opponent, for example, said he had a billboard in my district that says Dan Forrest will reopen the schools. And I'm like, dude, we are in the middle of this raging pandemic. And you talk about sending kids back to school. And again, I get it. I'm a parent. Everybody is living that life right now, but I appreciate his leadership and his willingness to sort of stick to it.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I mean, and I'm gonna be honest with you. Um, me personally, I've been impacted quite a bit. There are a lot of people who were, a lot of family and friends who are no longer here since April of last year,
That's right.
and all due to COVID.
Yeah.
Whether they come out directly and say it, which most of them did,
Yeah.
um, and then there were some who had other, they were saying, well, it was this thing that caused it, this a heart attack, or cardiac arrest, or this, that, and other. But the underlying thing was COVID. The catalyst was COVID,
That's right.
because I had family members who, that was the symptom. You lose your sense of taste and smell and so forth, and a lot of other things, a lot of functions, and then all of a sudden, you can't breathe. You go in the hospital, and you go into cardiac arrest. You see what I'm saying? So, and like I said, I appreciate what the governor's been doing, but like you said, people are trying to flex they're trying to make it political. So I guess my question is, and I know governor has put out he's put out some orders, some mandates, or some recommendations, I guess, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
My question is, because I know throughout the course of time, there's always a lot of laws. If you look back, people make fun of it sometimes on TV and internet about these obscure laws in the books or whatever. And my question is, A, how these obscure laws get here? B, if they is it not possible to have a law, if 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 even for a short period of time, to cover, hey, you must wear a mask. You know,
Mm.
it that would, to me, that would be like, that would be like, okay, that would stop all of this foolishness, because I would think, like you said, it's common sense. Hey, it's one of these things, when you walk into a place of business, they say no shirt, no shoes, no service.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, no shirt, no shoes, no service. I'm gonna add mask. No shirt, no shoes, no mask, no service.
Mm-hmm.
And but if that's not enough for you, then hey, is there a way that it could potentially be a law, or is that even possible? I don't know if that's even possible.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's a good point. So what under his executive authority, what he did was he minimized the number of people who could gather in a space, shut down bars and restaurants, etc., and of course shut down schools. And so under his executive authority, that's what he could do, right? Which you could think about where we would be if you could let people in bars or restaurants and those sorts of things. We'd be in a world of hurt. So
Right.
he did that, and so anything like that otherwise would have to have been legislated. And so the current makeup of the General Assembly will not allow for that to happen. They will not pass that. We couldn't get that out of the General Assembly, and it would and even yeah, they just would not, just because the majority, which are currently conservatives, wouldn't go for it, right? And so I think he went as far as he could without there actually having to be legislative action. And so I think that a lot of them did not like that, and a lot of them are trying to sort of take away some of his authority, but it's not working right now. But I wish it absolutely could be. And one thing that you learn about walking into this space, especially into state government, is you realize the limitations very quickly. That we have the governor has so much authority and power, but in North Carolina, the seat of power is the legislature, and so it really depends on who you have in office. Seriously,
Hmm.
in the type of districts that are made up right now. Um, we are in what they call a redistricting year.
Mm-hmm.
So, based on who wins the election at the end during the census year, they get a chance to draw the maps. And so, generally, what has happened when the power of the party that is in power draws those maps to their favor. And so that's what happened in 2010. And we got an incredibly gerrymandered set of maps. And we fought that all through the decade. And they ended up winning again because of those same gerrymandered maps. And so they draw them, they get more of their kind or their type or their party. And then they get a chance to do those kinds of things. And so it matters all the time, but especially it matters in these times when there could have been these sort of life-saving strategies and processes and laws that could be in place. But they're not going for it. But related to for the obscure laws, you'd be amazed that like for example, and this is a little off track, but in North Carolina, we have one of the youngest ages where someone can get married legally. Right? That's an obscure thing that had been in place, when that was sort of the norm, and nobody ever thought about it again, right? And so it got brought up. Matter of fact, just yesterday, it got filed yesterday. And so, of course, that's going to be updated to 18, right? So that, all sides can be legal. But it really does take either people, the public, looking and paying attention so that they know, what's happening and they can bring it to legislators' attention. Or sometimes it's just for us to be like, roll tape, right? And sort of go in and dig up what's happening, because at the end of the day, those things do have adverse effects, right? And again, there are small things that again don't make a difference until they really do.
Gotcha. Well, you know what? This looks like a good time to take a pause here.
Yeah. Are we giving away? We giving away prizes?
We're gonna give away a prize now. We'll give away a prize.
Our group has grown a bit. Good to see y'all.
Our group yes, definitely grown. Thank you guys for joining. So, we're gonna go ahead and give away for those that just joined. This is North Carolina House Representative from House District 31, Zack Hawkins. I had to put that Nino Brown on it.
Miss Hawkins.
And he's been blessing us with his presence and his knowledge today of how these different issues that we're facing is impacting not only the world or the state as a whole, but also the Black community and how it impacts Black fatherhood as well. So we're gonna take a pause for real quick second. So Representative Hawkins, like we said before, we're gonna let you pick. We have 4 of these masks. I'm gonna just show you one. We got 4 Black Fathers Matter masks to give away tonight. And we have 2 gift cards to give away. We're going to do one now. Just do one prize now. We'll do another prize in another few minutes. And then at the end of the program, we'll give away the rest of the prizes. So you get to pick which prize you want to give away right now.
Okay. Always going with the mask.
Go with the mask. All right. So for those that just joined, that's why I said it's important to join Eventbrite. If you join through get your ticket through Eventbrite. Eventbrite sent me a report of everyone who joined, just a running list from the time they started selling tickets to the event. So so everyone has a number, 1 through it was 29 right now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have Alexa pick the number, so y'all can't say, "Oh, he picked such and such and such." And whatever number you pick, Alexa picks, I'm gonna look at the list, and that's who wins this Black Fathers Matter mask. Compliments of Black Fathers Matter and Father Focus Live. All right, so here we go. Alexa, pick a random number between 1 and 29.
Your random number between 1 and 29 is 2.
2. All right. So that number is Miss Deborah Bullock. Is Miss Bullock in here? Miss Bullock, if you're in here, I don't see your name. Can you say something? Or I'm sorry, type something in the chat. Better say anything. Miss B? I don't see her name. Maybe she was a little busy. Hold on one second. Maybe she got a little busy. Don't look like Miss Bullock is in here. So,
All right, next contestant.
all right, next person then. We have Alexa. Go to Alexa again. Alexa, pick a number between 1 and 29.
Your random number between 1 and 29 is 20.
Okay. Number 20 on the list is Alfonso Morel. Yeah, I know. I see him in here. Yeah. Alfonso, real quick. Do you want this mask? He already has one of these masks. Do you want this mask or you want to give somebody else a chance to win it? Hit it in the chat real quick.
Well, he won it, so he owns it.
Well, right now we'll go ahead and just leave it here for Alfonso Morel. All right. So just a little short break. So now back to our questions here. Now we're gonna move on a little more pertinent questions to the Black community now. So as an African American in the North Carolina General Assembly, what challenges do you feel you face that may be disproportionate in manner, as you know, to your Caucasian constituents?
Yeah, sure. No.
I mean, colleagues.
Colleagues, yeah. And so, just for a little bit of history, my, District 31, my predecessor was Representative Mickey Michaud, who Durham native, member of Omega Psi Phi fraternity, and was the longest serving member of the General Assembly. He was actually the third member elected post Reconstruction, right? So the first ever in Durham. And so when you think about sort of that sort of trajectory to what we face now, and it was, three of them at the time, right? In a sea of 120 members. And if you could only imagine that, right? And in the early 1970s, where many folks had never met people who were of color and educated.
Right.
And so, over time, things at the General Assembly, have gotten better because of that presence. From three to now, I think it's 30 plus members of the General Assembly that are African American, right? And so that's almost 40. And so the vibe that we that we're sort of tasked with is being the conscience of the General Assembly, right? Making sure that, because we know that the things that impact the world impact us much greater. And so I think that sort of sense of obligation is a thing that my white colleagues don't have, right? They, sometimes, they see what they see. We have to think about every person clearly, but especially every person of color across the state, and the way that something that seems small may impact them in a great way, right? So that's one obligation, I think, and one sort of thing that comes with it. The second is just that. The second is that I think we also have to think about and have to make our case, so to speak, because African Americans, minorities are only what 25% of the state population, or 12, well, yeah, about 25% of the state population, and I think sometimes making that case to people, even people who are Democrats, right, or conservatives, sometimes they just don't understand the lived experience that we have, and the way that we see things, and the things that we advocate for. HBCUs, making sure that things like COVID, the monies for COVID, and all those things are super important to us. K through 12 education, because in many places, like in Durham, for example, where I live, you have 70-80% of the kids in Durham who are in our public schools are Black and brown, right? And so when we advocate for those things, we're doing so out of a sense of again wanting to make life better for everybody, but especially our population, because of the challenges we face. But I think sometimes it's just so hard for them to understand that, and that goes not only for making the case for the greater good, I think the other side is for sometimes things that are specifically to support those communities. And so I think that it really, to me, is a dynamic that has gotten better clearly over time. But is one since the George Floyd thing, specifically around sort of criminal justice reform and all those, that people have had to sort of open their eyes, which has really made having those conversations much more easy. Because again, I don't care what caucus you're in, you find that you just be surprised how many people who are not of color go through the world never having to think about it, right? Never having to go through the world thinking about race and the way that it impacts life. Um, and so I think one of the things that I would also say is they think just because we're members of the General Assembly, that hey, some of us has been stopped by the police. Does that make sense? Some of us,
Yeah,
once
definitely
we're
makes
in the
sense.
real world, people don't see you as. Does that make sense? They don't know you're an elected official, and so in their minds they treat you accordingly, right? Depending on where you are.
They
And
treat
so
you
I
how
think,
they see you.
what's that?
They treat you how they see you.
Sure, and and I think that is again just the things that we have to continuously sort of educate on, and again in a way that our colleagues just don't. You find when dealing with colleagues that most are open. There's a small few that we know they are who they are, and they're never really going to engage. But most we find that on both sides of the aisle, it is about building the relationship though, right? And so relationship building over there is super important, so that you can open that door to say, this is the way that I see the world. This is the way that I think that will impact me and people that look like me. But so all in all, I would say that it's just a greater sense of purpose, and it's a greater sense of obligation and lived experience that they'll just never know, to be completely honest.
Okay. Yeah. So wow, actually, and I guess
But
this is
so
one
goes
part.
the Black experience, though, right? I mean, ours is just a microcosm of the bigger world.
Yeah, yeah. And I was actually gonna do this towards the end, but I think this, this may be a good time to go ahead and do it. And I'll go ahead and encourage everyone that's viewing, that's watching tonight, to, if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat, and I'll try to get them as you try to get them in when I can, to the representative. So there's a question from Marcus Perry, graduate of North Carolina A&T State University. He says, question for Representative Hawkins: with the challenges that you face as they pertain to race, if there was one specifically that you could eliminate immediately, which would it be and why?
Really good question. I'll have to package a few of them in one. First I would say, things like you mentioned in the very beginning, um, the appreciation and understanding that sometimes monies have to be targeted to certain communities. For example, with COVID, to make the impact, because we see that those communities are being impacted greater than anyone else in a negative way, right? If I could do just that, that's one thing. I think the other two boil down, to education and sort of things like crime. But the second thing is with education, you have two pieces that go along, and that is, first, the fact that we don't have enough teachers of color in front of our students, but more and more we have kids of color who are in the public school system. The other part of that is the fact that, and sometimes it just seems discriminatory, is the fact that we don't provide all the resources to schools that we know are underfunded and are of majority of color. Does that make sense? Like
Makes
it
perfect
just
sense, brother.
blows your mind.
That's the
Um,
difference. That's the difference between, and
you're good.
that's the difference between a family living sometimes within their means and living in a lower income residence, or having to sacrifice whatever they need to move to another residence just so that children get a better education. And yeah, that's
and that's not the way it's supposed to work, right? You should be able, you should be able, no matter where you are, where you live, who your family is, you should be able to maximize your God-given potential, right? You should be able to get a sound basic education in North Carolina.
Mhm.
And again, the numbers have not lied for a very long time, but there just seems to be this disregard for that sort of stuff, like what could actually make it better. And for some, is they just don't want to spend the money, don't believe in public education. And I think for others, it's for a very very specific reason. And I would think thirdly, sorry, and I'm wrapping this all into one is the sort of disregard, and this is more of a national thing, but the disregard up until recently of the ways in which we're going to so build communities that are safe for everybody, and understand that we have a problem with in certain communities with policing, and that that crime and poverty are um, offshoots of the fact that people don't have jobs and education, right? And so again, it's about investing and calling out those problems, calling out white supremacy where it is, and not trying to mask it. And so those things all together, um, that those including systemic racism, all those things are things, again, everybody's saying it, but to some people the blinders are just on, and if you move past some of that, it would make the world a whole lot easier. And as an African American serving, you can imagine how it makes me feel.
gotcha. Well, hey, that was a real good question, Marcus. Thank
Yes,
you for
man.
that question. So, and thank you, Representative Hawkins. So, a kind of twofold question.
Sure.
So, we've been talking about a lot of issues that you face and a lot of things you see in the General Assembly in the state and how affects um, it affects our community.
Mhm.
So, two questions. One, well, I guess first question is, how do you feel? I know you said there's some challenges we have, but how do you feel like looking at a lot of the different major states in the country? Where do you think North Carolina ranks when it comes to being, effectively addressing minority issues?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. Excellent question. And so, in many ways, we've regressed over the last decade or so, because North Carolina used to be the beacon of the South, right? We used to be the space that you look to for opportunity,
Yeah,
and for everybody. And though we had our challenges, we were moving in the right direction. And right now, we are definitely not leading in the South anymore. I mean, we can take it off the table. I mean, look at places like Georgia, as of recent. Look at even in the north, in the north mid Atlantic. Virginia, you've already had black governor. You've already had you're about to have three nominees potentially in Virginia for their top offices. Maryland, heck, Florida had a Democratic nominee, right? I mean, you had a shot to have, people, in charge in a statewide perspective. And so the reason I bring that up is because it's a reflection of how people have been able to build political operations and change, which also then, moves into policy. And so when you start looking at states like North Carolina, we're probably middle of the pack, which just isn't good enough. And so when you look at the fact that there, our students are behind in many ways as it relates to educational attainment. When you look at the fact that you're talking about child poverty rates, right? When you're looking at kids that are K through 3, most minority black folks that are kids are coming into our systems not ready to learn, right? When you're looking at especially when you talk about women, especially black women, when you start looking at pay equity, Black women are not where they're supposed. Does that make sense? They're not where they're supposed to be. And then
Yeah,
black
I got you. No, I definitely understand.
so, yeah, and so that I think that we're middle of the pack, below middle of the pack, and that all stems from, in my opinion, the investments in education and where we are with things like teacher pay. We're near the bottom nationally in those two areas, and to be honest, it impacts literally everything else. And so we used to a long time ago we were in competition with Atlanta, and all of a sudden Atlanta or state of Georgia started to move in a different direction, and we're not, producing and supporting, black-owned businesses and making sure that they're getting the contracts that they need, right? So if you have all these big buildings and all these state contracts, et cetera, and people are not getting the type of the investment that's needed and that's absolutely necessary to make sure that black and brown folks are doing incredibly well. So I would have to give us a D right now, low C, on our sort of ability. But those are things that again made complete strides, fell off, and I think with the new class of folks, we're coming to it with we want to see these things happen, right? Like it's time out for asking because what we get a chance to see and what we get a chance to hear from folks and through lived experience is you need to put food on people's tables now. You need to put money in people's pockets now. And what is good for the state, what's good for black folks is good for the state.
Yeah,
I don't think we can argue with that.
hey, I definitely can't argue with that, brother. That for sure. So I think this is another good stopping point, Representative Hawkins. We've got another 15 minutes gone here, so let me stop here and give away another prize or two. Actually, I'll let you make the call, but before you make the call, I'm gonna let you know that Alfonso did say in the chat that he wanted to allow someone else to win the match since he already had one. So we definitely have one match to give away for this segment, and it's up to you. Do you want to give another mask or you want to give one of the gift cards away?
Give a gift card.
Okay. So which one you want to start with, the mask or the gift card?
Gift card.
Start with the gift card. Okay, here we go. We're going to start with the gift card. Going back to Alexa. And let's see what we got here. Oh, there we go. Alexa, give me a random number between 1 and 29.
Your random number between 1 and 29 is 27.
27. That is Affy Bird. Are you in here? I know she just...
Going to the next one.
If you hear, say something in the chat. Say something in the chat. Hello.
Those are Roger Keys.
Oh, you know Keys.
Yeah, I know Keys. Good to see him.
Keys down here in Charlotte. Keys down here in Charlotte now.
You left Eastern North Carolina. Okay.
Keys down here. Yeah, me and Keys was running to each other at the Y. Affy, are you here? Going once? Going twice? All righty. We're going to the next person. Alexa, give me a random number between 1 and 29.
Your random number between 1 and 29 is 22.
22. Odell Maxwell. Did I see him in here?
Oh, yeah, right here. I see him.
You see him?
Mm-hmm.
Wait, which Odell you see?
There's only one.
Okay. Odell Maxwell. $20 Visa gift card coming to you, brother. Put your name on it right now. This will help you, I don't know, inch your feet to a tournament or something. I play a lot of ball with him. All righty.
I do have a question that I got in the chat. It was a direct message, if I can read it out loud.
Go ahead. Help yourself.
it was around talking about the importance of the Black Fathers Matter
Yeah.
group, and one of the things that I remember when I, again, young father, and with my now 19-year-old is, one guy was, out sort of talking and taking him to soccer practice, and the guy said, Black father, you got to be a Black father out loud, right? You got to be a father out loud. You got to let people see it. You got to show it, because um, all the stats talk about the fact that or they try to show that it's not a thing, right? The Black father is not a thing. But we all know that's not the truth. Most people I know a ton of folks, even if they're not together, are involved in their children's lives, and lots of men are absolutely amazing fathers. And so I think that the type of organization that you have created here is important, because at the end of the day, not only just to beat back stereotypes, but to create an inclusive conversation, because there may be people who have never seen it, and they now can look to organizations like this and say, I never had a dad, but I want to learn how to be a better dad, right? Um, you may, have, people who, again, they could be in relationships or married and say the same thing. And then for some, I think it creates an opportunity for kids that may not have one, right, to know that they have somewhere to turn if they need it, right? Because sometimes father figures are not always the ones who help bring you life. And so I think that it's absolutely incredible, and it's worth uplifting, because what we find is that there are advocacy groups out here that focus on family issues, right? There are policy issues that directly impact families, and Black fathers, as they continue to grow in movements, need to be a part of that sort of stuff. Does that make sense?
You know what? You actually
There's a range. I won't get into the details of what some of those are.
You actually moving into my next question.
Oh, okay, okay.
But let me give away this mask real quick, and we're gonna jump right back into that, because that was my next question. Hold on. All right. So now the next prize will be the Black Fathers Matter mask. And I thank you again, brother, for those encouraging words. Yeah, because it's definitely tough for Black fathers out here. Alexa, give me a random number between 1 and 29.
Your random number between 1 and 29 is 23.
23. That is Devon Brown. Do you see him in here? I don't see him. Devon, are you here? I see one person that says iPad. I don't know who that is. Nobody's saying nothing. I'm being generous and didn't kick him out. Well, all right, let me try it again. Alexa, give me a random number between 1 and 29.
Your random number between 1 and 29 is 28.
Can't use that. That person already been used. Alexa, give me a random number between 1 and 26.
Your random number between 1 and 26 is 10.
10. That is Lamar Davis. Lamar, are you in here?
Nope.
Are you iPad? All right. I tell you what, I'm going to get a random number based on the number of people we got in here and just give it to somebody in this group.
See.
Alexa, give me a random number between 1 and 18.
Your random number between 1 and 18 is 15.
And that is Roger Keys. 16, 17, 18. Yep, that's Roger Keys.
There you go.
There you go, Roger Keys. You won yourself a Black Fathers Matter mask. We will get this to you, brother. We'll get this to you. All right, let's go ahead and jump back in these questions, because, the conversation is getting good. So you were talking about, my next question was actually on what do you feel the state government does well in regards to, In regards to the legislature for what do you see in particular when it comes to Black fatherhood that the legislature does well or they could do better? And
Yeah, and I would say does well, and my history didn't go back as far as a lot of folks, but does well. I you know I don't say there's much, right. There's much sort of movement with regard to it, to be completely honest. Um, and I think that to do better, I think it's conversations like these and forums with Black men and Black fathers to ask the very simple question: what are challenges that you face? What are things that will make your life easy, more efficient? Not only just to live your life and to have opportunity, better for you and your child, but also in dealing with state government. Like if you're a dad and you're dealing with government on any level, um, how's that process going, right? And I think a lot of that, and that's sort of away and apart from um, issues of child and family law, right? That's different from things like crime and law enforcement. I'm just talking about again everyday sort of inner workings of government. And some of the groups, and I'll send these to you. Again, I get these family council emails and talking points and groups that reach out to us, which I think is fine for them to advocate. But I would love to see a concerted effort from Black fathers to specifically talk about ways that we could do better by that population.
gotcha. Couple more questions. Hold on, I'm starting my timer back up. I know when to shut my mouth and give out some prizes. Uh, okay, yeah, and actually, that kind of rolls into the next question. Like, what resources do you know of, if any,
Mhm.
are available to see? You see tons of things out here for Black mothers or single mothers. Let's say single mothers. That there's tons of things out here for single mothers, right? Um, and then after this question, I'm gonna go to the chat. I got a question in the chat.
Okay.
But you see a lot of things out for single mothers. But what do we have out here? What resources do we have? Support groups, special grants, other funding, education, or whatever that will support the education, the financial state, and also the mental state of or the emotional state
Sure.
of Black fathers, but single fathers, but specifically Black fathers.
Yeah. No, that's an excellent question. And a lot of that, well, two places where you will find it is, of course, you have sort of the Fatherhood Council, or fatherhood.gov, which you'll see those commercials from time to time in the federal government that
Right there.
are places that overall sort of talks about and supports fatherhood and the role of fatherhood in people. The other place that we all know is that a lot of times you'll see those kinds of resources associated with nonprofits all across North Carolina, right? And that's and those are just anything from sort of job skills to a lot of online support efforts for fathers to get together, even down to like autism fathers, right?
Mhm.
To people who have like kids with special needs if you're a father. And I think they are again mostly what you're going to find is in the nonprofit space, that there are a lot of groups, not as much, that are talking about things like mental health though, and emotional help. And I think some of those individual support groups that you find that are offshoots of nonprofits are probably also attacking that too, in addition to job training skills and empowerment related to grants and money. A lot of that is going to coincide, just I think in general, with whether you're a business owner, which we have more money that is going to come down for people who are not only dealing with issues of eviction and rental assistance, both for the tenant and the landlord. You're also for business owners, making sure that they can continue to pay their employees. If you fall into that category, I think thirdly, if you're a business owner, you're looking for contracts. We're doing a little bit more through some of the outfits of the state to ensure that people are educated about how to do business with the state.
Right.
But my fourth thing, the thing that I'm going to say is that again, not much is just completely targeted. And again, that's not a there's a women's caucus, right?
Right.
There's a women's council, and but you don't see a lot of that formal structure. Let me say it that way. In state and sometimes even local government, which that's a really good place for anybody that's listening, because again, most cities of a certain size have a women's council, and that's great. That's fantastic, because there are specific challenges that come along with being a woman. But I also do think that fatherhood and fathers is not a bad thing, because what's better than a dad spending time with his kids, right? A dad knowing how to be a better dad, and or encouraging the things that only dads can do, right?
Exactly.
As a product of a separate home, a single mom. I luckily had my grandfather, right? I luckily had a group of other, men that were instrumental in showing me that path, but that is not always the fate of a
Right.
lot of.
Exactly, brother. Yeah, man. That's definitely a good point. Definitely a good point. Whew. Yeah. Black fathers are definitely important. So
They just are, and I just think that it's I think about even to this day, I think about even things my biological dad taught me. I think about things that my grandfather taught me. Here's some one-liners that he would say. Oh my God. I mean, it didn't make a lot of sense at the time, but I found myself repeating it.
hey, do you find yourself saying them old man saying
And the
now?
old man saying, but he used to have one that he said, everybody that grin ain't your friend. Every shut eye ain't sleep. And I remember one that he used to say that was really, really good. And it's old chocolate when he, down east guy. I was talking about, da da da, they keep saying this. He said, look, everybody ain't telling the same lie. And it made so much sense. He's like, he's hearing from 5 different people the same thing. Everybody ain't telling the same lie.
Everybody tell the same lie.
Yeah, fathers teach, right? Through time, for them spending time, sometimes them just being around and giving nuggets of knowledge just changes the dynamic for kids, and especially if they get a chance to see the male female or partner relationship.
Right.
It just makes such a like, that's me, right? That can't
Right. Exactly.
be.
You know.
It's a good thing to be. I mean, it's not the easiest thing in the world. Not being a parent is the easiest thing in the world, but fatherhood is absolutely amazing, because boy, I swear you get a chance to see yourself in your kids.
Oh boy, listen, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Listen, I told my kids the other day they had called themselves trying to pull one over on me. I said, yeah, listen, you ain't being slick to a can of oil. See, that's one of the old man said. Listen, I didn't done that. Well, as my granddaddy used to say, same old pot of soup warmed over.
That's right. Same old soup warmed over. Absolutely.
Yeah, sure. Hey, so we got 2 more questions. Got one from the chat and one more here that follows up. Looks like pretty good with this one from the chat. And then we're gonna give away these last 3 masks and the gift card, and then we'll wrap it up here. We thank you guys for staying so patiently. We know we're running a few minutes over 9, but you know what? Hey, it's been some great conversation, y'all. I mean, honestly, I don't know if y'all got anything out of it, but I got a lot out of it. This is, not just as a Black father, but just as a citizen of the state. And some of the stuff even goes beyond just the state of North Carolina, because actually the next question comes from New York.
Sure.
So it says, after the 2008 election of President Obama, and in conjunction with Democrats gaining control of both houses of Congress, the Republican Party began a campaign directed at winning local elections, thus gaining control of state houses,
Right.
which enabled them to begin reshaping. When I lost my place, reshaping electoral district in order to give Republicans control of state houses and initiate voter suppression.
That's
Given
right.
that once again the Democrats have control of the presidency and both the houses of Congress, how will North Carolina Democrats defend against a, a repeat of this assault?
No. That is man,
And
that
it says, and how will the legislators ensure an equitable distribution? Oh, well, that's something different.
yeah, no. I'll take that one from 2008. And what they did not only in Congress, but like you said, in the legislature, they said we may not be able to. They knew they weren't going to beat him the first time, and they knew they weren't going to beat him the second time. But what they ended up realizing is in in the seats of power and places where they could win were in small towns that were generally, especially in North Carolina, controlled by Democrats, and in the legislature because they understood, just to be honest, that a lot of folks were going to be hype and excited, and we made history, but they knew they were going to fall asleep, and they knew that there was a lot of resentment for there being the first African American president. And here in North Carolina, we ended up electing the first woman governor, right? So it was a double whammy, and he won the state of North Carolina.
Yep.
And so when you look at that, the thing that I think people sort of have to realize is that the enemy is always working, right? And we know that from what the Bible teaches us. And I think the lesson there is that there's an election on the ballot every single year, locally. Your mayors, your town council, all those folks, people who are district attorneys, et cetera, in your cities, the places where you pay taxes locally, who make and have probably the most impact on your lives day to day. And then every odd, even year, 2008, 2010, 12, et cetera, you're going to have legislatures, both state legislators and your members of Congress. And so making sure that people stay engaged in the conversation and follow is absolutely the number one job that I think everybody has. And so as we go through that sort of decade, that's what led to where we are right now. Republicans won 2010, ended up taking control, gerrymandering like crazy, where they had one point they had a super majority where they could do anything in North Carolina, and they absolutely did that, and they rolled back voting rights and access in ways that we had never seen. And I think again over the course we made some gains, but we didn't win in 2020. So now they have the control or the ability to draw those maps. Now, what we have at our disposal is is now the people understand that process a little bit more, and we potentially have the courts, right, who are going to look at if they try any more funny business and say, look, this violates the Voting Rights Act. This does not, as they said before, this this packs African Americans and minorities into places that dilutes their voting strength. This is not fair and not equitable given the change in the state of North Carolina, right? We have almost over 10 million people, right? That's a lot of folks, and a lot more areas are more urban, and we know what that means politically. And so I think that just the message that I have there is just making sure that people do. I know how easy it is to get excited and feel like something doesn't matter, but in some small towns, you can win an election by 25 votes. Some small towns, some counties, you can win local elections by 1,000 votes. And so when you start thinking about all the people who are on this call and otherwise, you're like, look, if we do the right thing and show up every single time, we can win every single election. And so the thing that they figured, and then what they knew from being in the minority so long in North Carolina for the General Assembly, is that if we control it, we control $24 billion across the state. And not only that, that's our state budget. And we get a chance to make sure that we empower and put in what they think are conservative sort of Republican principles that don't even fit the state. Because if you look at North Carolina, we're kind of a 50-50 state. And so it has had bad, terrible consequences. One of which I know everybody can that everybody really can understand is what they did in public education. Like a sledgehammer to it. And if you don't think that impacted people like us, I got a bridge to sell you.
Exactly. Right outside in my backyard. Because
You're right.
come on, man. When that appointment to the Secretary of Education, that was just the beginning of the disgraceful disappointments, and that I saw here in this, and by the former
45
body in the chair in the chair. Yeah. So, but obviously now we've made it past made it past domestic coup.
Yeah, but the thing that she that he or she brings up is now that we have a Democratic president, the key is to really get out there and exercise is the vote. Because given especially with 45 in place, we saw what people are capable of, right? Down to a coup. And we've seen in North Carolina over the last 10 years what people are capable of. And so we literally, with COVID and Floyd and all the things, we literally have no excuse not to take that sort of next step. And I think that's honestly what I'm dedicated to, and more importantly to that, what a lot of people of color and folks on my side are saying. If we value Black folks, we need to make sure that we put them in more positions of authority. But to the Black voter, we need to start talking to them now about 2022. We don't need to wait until 3 months and start doing the church circuit and start asking them to get out the vote. It's an engagement. This is a deep relationship, because African Americans, especially for the Democratic Party, are the bread and butter.
And like you said, there's election every year, so it's like
it's got to be a constant conversation.
You can't wait. Like you said, you can't wait because you missing a bunch of could be vital elections during that time. So, now I know there's a lot that we need to do from a minority perspective of voting and so forth and so on. Yeah. But what improvements do you expect? I know I believe you've met with President Biden. Mm-hmm. At one point in time, you met with Vice President Kamala Harris, HBCU graduate, Howard University, member of Divine Nine. But anyway, so but what improvements do you expect to really see? Meeting these two people and talking to them. What improvements do you expect to see in regards to minorities specifically, and to help to heal what is obviously a huge racial divide right now?
Yeah, no. I think I appreciate that question. I think first, it starts with accountability, right? Because there is no healing without accountability. Mm-hmm. And so the people who are perpetrating that coup need to be accountable. People, and that's members and the people who actually did it. I think that there has to be, and he's already done this, a sort of sense of intentional diversity, right? And you've seen him do that with his picks for cabinet secretary, and clearly with his pick for vice presidential. I think the other part is continuously saying and normalizing that white supremacy is horrible for our country, right? Because there were a lot of people who just got unearthed over the last 4 years.
People and he needs to actually say it. He needs to actually say it.
People, they're like, you voted for this guy, you know who he is, and then all of a sudden they want to have an epiphany after the coup. And so it was a show show me who you are, believe you the first time. And so I think so with that, the things that I have heard from them both personally and afterwards is that they understand that dollars need to specifically get to the community that is impacted for COVID, right? And that's huge. I think the second part of that is making sure that they have relationships with community leaders and state leaders who can make the difference. I think third, and this I'm proud of this as an HBCU grad, is making sure that not only are they putting incredible money into HBCUs, but they're having a more constant conversation with the HBCUs so they can understand what they need. And when they do that, and say those things, guess what happens to private industry? All of a sudden, you got Google wanting to have conversations with HBCUs. You have, does that make sense? Like that's the sort of mentality behind making a priority. Is he and she understand the power of the pulpit that they have, and if they make diversity and support for Black folks a known priority, other people fall in line, and it means something coming from their mouths, right? Does that make sense? And so
Oh yeah, definitely.
I think that is just so powerful on its own. And then in this latest his agenda sort of for African Americans and Black folks includes money to specifically help, and she sort of may lead this effort, I think, ways to make sure that we have more Black entrepreneurs, right? We know that and this is near and dear to me because I represent Durham, Black Wall Street.
Hello.
Places where,
Talk about it.
Opportunity for people to make their own way in life, which is what everybody wants. And so I think that making sure that you do that and allowing people to pay who they want a living wage, you have an opportunity not only to give people the passion of building something for themselves, but then secondly, all stats show that people of color hire more people of color. Does that make sense? And so it directly goes to employment opportunity, circulating the dollar more so into communities. It has so many ripple effects just because they said when I take office, and a lot of this they're trying to build out and work with the Congress right now, just because they are willing to do those things, lives can be changed. Does that make sense? And so, excuse me, I say that makes sense, even though I know it does.
No, I got you, man. Yeah. So
that just is really I can't wait to see it. And I think even procedurally, the thing that I'm overly impressed with is in the Senate, in the U.S. Senate, you can have they can make things difficult by having to have 60 people vote to pass anything. And so right now, they're moving forward and saying, look, we have 50 senators and we have the vice president. So we're going to move to procedurally have it be a simple majority versus, a majority of 60 plus. And by doing that, they're showing that we're not going to play the games that are played procedurally, because we understand the impact that these monies have on the people that care about us, who've shown they cared about us, which is Black folks, and what that can do for their lives. And so I appreciate that macro and micro level initiative on their end, and not giving in to pressure, because so many times over the course of politics since I've been alive, people make promises when they're running, don't deliver. And so it is so refreshing.
Overpromise and underdeliver.
That's exactly right. And it's so refreshing to see at a national level that people are absolutely living up to their obligations.
Wow. Well, Representative Hawkins, Looks like we're a little past our time.
Oh, well, I appreciate the time, everyone. Thank you, everyone, and for sticking in. I really appreciate it. It's always good to talk to you. Always good to celebrate Black fatherhood, and it is always amazing to be with people who care about that topic, who want to perpetuate that topic. And anytime I can ever do anything for anybody on the line, please call or text or email.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate you. And on behalf of the, Black Fathers Matter and Father Focus Live and all the constituents of the Father Focus Live, we want to, just thank you for coming here and educating us and, helping us to better understand what it takes and where we are and what it takes to get to where we want to go.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
I'll say this in ending. Don't ever be afraid to call your representative, your city council, your mayor, your governor, your congressman. People read those emails and they pay attention to it. And if they don't hear your perspective, then your perspective will not be at the table when they make decisions and when they take votes. And that's exactly what you need to know. I think also, especially when you have forums like this, and you live in Charlotte or you live in, ask them to get on the line and have a conversation with you. Create a one pager for your community and say, you know what, these are things we care about. What are you gonna do about it? You'd be surprised. You'd be
yeah,
surprised what the reaction will be. I promise you.
and I don't want to start another conversation. I want to go and get these gifts away,
No,
but
no, 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 no. Go ahead. I just want to make sure everybody said. I said that to everybody though.
you hit a good point because a lot of time people they quick to say, "Well, what is they going to do for the Black people? Or they didn't do nothing for the Black community." Well, what is? No, I'm sorry. The favorite thing is they didn't do a thing to for the Black agenda. Okay, and I asked him this question. Well, what is the Black agenda? Can I Google it? Is it written down? Can you tell me? You know,
Black agenda is what impacts the black people in your area.
right? But
So
I'm saying specifically, do they have like some? Do you have some stuff that you really want to? Do you have like line items, action items you're looking to see,
yeah,
or just you think it's just going to be they supposed to just guess and give you your 40 acres and a mule and then guess whatever else you want? No, you got to tell them.
gotta use your voice.
You got to tell them. Tell them, people. Tell them. So thank you guys for sticking in. We're gonna go ahead and get rid of these last. We got 3 more masks and a gift card to give away. So Representative Hawkins, which one you think we ought to give away first? And I'm using just the number of people that in this live.
Well, I think we're back to the mask.
Okay, we're gonna do the mask. Alexa, give me a random number between 1 and 16.
Your random number between 1 and 16 is 11.
Okay. 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11. That looks to be Ivy Alexis Baker. All right, all right. She's won a mask. She has won a mask, ladies and gentlemen. So all these people, I'll be reaching out to you, getting your information so we can send you your prizes here. I'm gonna document here who won what. We move on. Now we got 2 more masks and a gift card. Which one you think we ought to go with?
Back to the gift card. You can't deny people the ability to go, grab a soda, grab a sandwich.
It's the last gift card. Last gift card. There we go.
Coming to America 2 is coming out. They might want to buy it.
So I guess we'll still do 1 through 16, even though a few people already won. But we'll go ahead and I want to make sure we get some fresh winners here. Alexa, give me a random number between 1 and 16.
Your random number between 1 and 16 is 15.
Well, that's a person already won. So
I think you're gonna have to pick people.
let's do this.
Give me my money.
Let's do this. Let's go right below Alexis. Let's go below Ivy, all the way down to the end. Give me my money. All right. Alexa, give me a random number between 1 and 16, please.
Your random number between 1 and 16 is 8.
Let's see. Who's 8? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That says CCM. All right. There go another winner. Another winner. CCM. Make sure you guys send your information so I know where to send this stuff to. We got 2 more masks. Let's go ahead and give these away. Alexa, give me a random number between 1 and 16.
Your random number between 1 and 16 is 12.
12. That is Mr. Marcus Perry. Marcus, I know where you are, so I know how to get you yours. 1 more mask to give away. Alexa, give me a random number between 1 and 16.
Your random number between 1 and 6 is 4.
I said 16. Alexa, give me a random number between 1 and 16, please.
Your random number between 1 and 16 is 16.
16. That is Tequila Crawford. All righty. Thank you guys. Thank you guys so much for hanging in there with us. It's been a little longer than we thought, but I think it was a very helpful and great conversation. So, once again, on behalf of Black Fathers Matter, I'd like to thank Representative Hawkins for taking the time out and, giving us all this good knowledge, all this information. And thank you guys for joining this episode. Please stay tuned. For those that don't know, you can always visit the website. The website is www.blackfathersmatter.org. I'm sorry. My typing is off. I forgot the S. blackfathersmatter.org. Typing too fast. Also, those that are on social media, right now we have a Facebook page as well. We also have a YouTube page. We're going to start trying to get these recordings put on YouTube as well, so people can watch them, in their entirety later on if they didn't make it tonight. So, once again, thank you guys. Thank you for coming out. And we will see you guys next time. Thank you so much, Representative Hawkins. And we will go ahead and close this show out. Thank you guys, and hope to see you guys next time.